Well, look, I thought it was really important to talk about Bill Cooper again because my experience is that people know about him and people don't know about him. And really, he was such an extraordinary artist in our midst, living here on the Atherton Tablelands. You really wish, as the Newcastle Herald said in their obituary, that he was a household name. Like many sports people are, Bill Cooper should be a household name because his contribution is so amazing. And in our collections, across a number of our collections at JCU Library, we've got his books. So if you're not aware of Bill Cooper, you'll probably still find the wonderful biography on him available at your local bookstore called An Eye for Nature, The Life and Art of William T. Cooper, and probably other publications as well. But some of them are a bit rarer and harder to get, and we've got quite a selection at JCU Libraries. And I thought I'd mention in particular today this really beautiful 2-volume deluxe edition of Australian Parrots, which I was looking at yesterday, and the illustrations are just out of this world. So beautifully vibrant, and we're talking about birds, of course.
Yes, of course, so lifelike.
So lifelike, and I guess after reading about Bill again, the outstanding thing was that he was in these two zones of the artistic world, but also the scientific world. So he's very well known and respected for getting the detail right in those illustrations of wildlife, but also because he works so much from life and seeing the animals or the birds in action in life was critical to him, that there's this energy and essence of them that comes through in expression, in the look. I mean, it's just, they're stunning. You have to see them. You have to see these illustrations. And of course, you're very welcome to come to Eddie Koiki-Mabo Library, Special Collections, in particular to see this 2-volume deluxe set on Australian parrots.
With all the attention on wildlife and wildlife books, it's surprising that this one has not been republished over the years. So how many copies do you think are still remaining?
Well, Australian Parrots is one of the publications that Bill did with a very expert birdman, Joseph Forshaw. They did a number of publications together, so there's actually more than one edition of that particular number called Australian Parrots, but we might see some republication of some of those volumes. But of course, the earlier editions are all highly collectible now. But in particular, this deluxe set harks back to the era of Gould's bird publications in the 1800s, and William Cooper was very influenced by Gould, and as a small boy in Newcastle, he went to the library and would look at Gould's volumes on birds at that time, and they had a great influence on him and his life trajectory, that he became this incredible bird illustrator. So it's sort of a tradition and a genre, these big, deluxe, beautiful illustrated bird books.
And you actually had a chance to meet William T. Cooper too, didn't you?
I
When
know,
was that?
I'm just feeling really special myself this morning because I was lucky, and it is luck, to know a good friend of his and went to his place for lunch on the Tablelands, and Bill and Wendy, his lovely wife Wendy, were invited, so I got to spend a nice extended lunch with him and heard Bill talk about his earlier life, and was just remembering something I just read he actually told me, which is just a funny little tidbit, that growing up in Newcastle, as a teenager he was a taxidermist. He did talk about his school experience, which wasn't always great because he was always drawing.
Getting in trouble for not paying
Not paying enough attention. But went into taxidermy, did all sorts of odd jobs, including being a window dresser and working in a menswear store. But I remember him telling me that he painted ties, which is a long way from the sophistication of, bird illustration. He painted ties, obviously in a bit of a novelty fashion, and he made twice as much money selling these ties in the Hunter Valley as he did actually working as a salesman in the menswear store. And one of them he reminisced to me, and it's also in Penny Olsen's book, that there was a half-naked lady on the tie, and his mum sewed a pair of little lacy panties that could be lifted up, and they were attached to the tie. And I hope he got a good number of pennies for that one. But wouldn't you die to have a Bill Cooper tie right now?
Yes, you would. And I hope it's still around, that tie. I hope it didn't just go to the dump and get shredded. I hope it's a collector's item somewhere.
I hope
That'd be
so.
great.
But in that era, all men wore ties. Bill said, so there were a lot of ties about.
Yes, I wonder where you'd wear a tie with a naked lady with lift-up panties.
Oh, to a bar, do you think?
Probably, yes. Yeah.
Get a few laughs. So Bill was an amazing artist, a perfectionist, and also a very interesting and talented wife, Wendy, who's a botanist. And so another thing they produce, which people may not be aware of, outside of the bird work by Bill, there's these great publications on the fruit of the Australian tropical rainforest. Do you know about those, Paula?
And I have heard that he had done them. I haven't seen any copies.
Well, that's the first book I saw where I became aware of Bill Cooper was the fruit of the tropical Australian rainforest. And there is now a smaller field guide, very useful thing to actually take with you. But I read an article about Wendy and Bill's work in this area, and it's landmark work because there's just so many types of fruit in the tropical rainforest as opposed to the rainforest of New South Wales. And so they went on this project together to illustrate and document and describe all of these fruits. And of course, these fruits are like jewels, you know, and I think that's probably what got Bill Cooper in, to see the colours and the vibrancy on the tropical fruits in the rainforest. You would know, you'll see red fruit on the walking path, you'll see blue quandong, you just see amazing exotic fruits, and there's so many types. So this particular work on the rainforest fruits, they are also beautiful books with incredible illustrations.
And what brought him to live on the tablelands? Because you mentioned he obviously started in New South Wales.
Yeah, I'm not sure actually. It's probably in Penny Olsen's book, which is, I must say, is fabulous, An Eye for Nature. A lot of detail there about chronologically going through his life and his life trajectory. But yeah, I'd have to check that. No doubt it was something to do with natural environment, because that was the path he was on then. I think they came up in the mid to late 80s. So, yeah, I'd have to check that.
And tell us more about the two volumes about the parrots, these two particular volumes. What makes them special for the JCU collection?
Well, they're in the, we must acknowledge Miss Edna Shaw of Melbourne, the donor of the Shaw collection of Australian art and culture, 5,000 volumes on Australian art.
5,000 volumes?
5,000 volumes. This is a very substantial collection now, focusing on Australian art, but including books on Australian culture, because Edna believes you can't understand Australian art if you don't understand Australia, which is a very good point. And so in her collection, in the folios, because these are big books, is this this 2-volume edition of Australian parrots, published by Joseph Forshaw, who I mentioned before, the author, and William T. Cooper, the illustrator. So it's a revised, updated edition in 1980, 1981. And it's produced on the best quality paper with the most beautiful traditional binding. It's got a deep sea green leather binding on it, which is blind embossed, so it's textured. But on the front of each volume, which I'll include pictures of for the blog, which we'll see on your blog page, are 2 birds imprinted into the front of these leather volumes with this sort of silver outline. It's very luxurious. It smells great because it's leather.
Yes, I know.
But once again, in line with sort of Bill's whole career, you know, this is an edition that is both scientifically well-founded, you know, heavily referenced, not only full of illustrations, colour illustrations, but black and white paintings of Bill's and distribution maps. It's got a gazetteer and a full-blown index, a comprehensive bibliography. So it's doing all it needs to do for the scientific world, while also, you know, living in an artistic zone as well. And I think it's just these incredible illustrations that leap off the page, I think, like you said. And birds are inherently beautiful anyway, and to actually capture that on a flat surface is quite an astounding thing to do.
Amazing. Well, I guess a lot of people would like to come out to have a look. Since we've started White Gloves, have you had anyone drop by and come out to see any of the works that we've been talking about?
Well, there's always people dropping by, which is lovely. Sometimes students actually bring their parents, which is nice. But people will be often on campus doing other business, and they'll come by. But you do get, you know, calls from members of the public just to see how to access and what's available, and really it's to don't hold back, don't be apprehensive about coming, because we are there really to engage you in the collections. Let's see what interests you and what we have that you could use. So we encourage everyone to reach out.
Well,
but there's a lot of variety there.
Well, I'm interested to hear more about the rest of the Edna Shaw collection too, because it sounds like that's quite an amazing thing.
Well, I think we might just talk about Edna Shaw maybe next time, because she's an interesting person like Bill Cooper, and she's just incredibly generous to be giving us this collection. She still contributes to that collection. She's 90 years old, living in Melbourne, and it's just a gift to go looking for Bill's work and then discover that you not only have all the standard publications, but you have this deluxe, number 175 out of 1,000 copies. So a very limited edition, this deluxe edition of Australian Parrots. And it's really a wonderful cultural asset here in the north. You don't have to go to Brisbane to see this, or Canberra or Sydney. You can come to JCU Townsville to see this very beautiful rare book.
And we'll have some pictures on the Morning Show blog too soon.
We will.
Bronwyn, thank you.
Thank you, Paula.